Hello, my fellow speakers. This is Brian, the Speaker for the Dead, coming to you today with another video. This is going to be a follow-up video to my Alita review. This is kind of some housekeeping. I wanted to discuss some things that were brought up in the chat or the conversation or the comments that were made on that review. There was one of the people who looked at it and apparently voted it down and was a little bit bothered by my review. So I wanted to go over and cover some of these comments. This is not for people to go after him or whatever. So his name will be shown in these comments and stuff because I'm not going to spend my time sitting there trying to blur them out because I think anybody who follows me is a decent enough human being not to go and start bothering other people for their decisions. I just felt like I needed to kind of talk about some of the comments that he had made. So let's go take a look at these and we will see what his problems were with my review and see if I can't ease or even at least explain some of the reasoning behind the score that I gave it, which was only about a 6.5 out of 10. So his comment base, if you haven't seen that video on the review, you probably need to go watch it to be able to understand what he's talking about in these. So Salem, which is apparently the name of the Sky City, which I didn't really care about because they mentioned it and then really never did much with it. His comment was that we weren't supposed to care about it because Salem is a MacGuffin. Now, I didn't know what that meant. Now, maybe that makes me a little bit foolish or whatever for not knowing what a MacGuffin is. I mean, I'd heard the term, but I'm just like, I don't know if I... So for those of you who didn't know or don't know either, it's a plot point that's not really important. It's some device that's thrown out as a plot point that doesn't really matter to the general story or the overall story. And I just think that that's kind of a silly thing to say about this mega city because it's one of the driving forces of everybody's motivations in this whole film. I mean, the wars happened because of the cities, and this is the last city, this last Sky City. Most of the characters' motivations are based on either trying to get to the city or trying to survive off of the city basically itself. Everything seems to focus around this giant Sky City, so it can't be a MacGuffin. I'm sorry, that's an illogical term. If it's a MacGuffin to me would be more like in Battlestar Galactica, how the Earth is mentioned. It's the goal. They're trying to get to the Earth, but you never really see the Earth. The Earth is just that thing everybody's trying to get towards, but you never see it. It's never really involved in the story, and people talk about it rarely. And so that's a MacGuffin. That's something that's mentioned but not really seen or played into at all. That's just the long-term motivation as a thing off in the distance that you're going towards. That's a MacGuffin. The city Salem or whatever it is, it's not a MacGuffin because it's like the main focus of everybody's motivations. As I said, I'm kind of repeating myself, but it bears repeating. You can't have a MacGuffin that your entire story's based around and everybody's trying to use it. The other comment was I didn't really like Hugo, despite the fact the film seems to try and make you like Hugo. She's falling for Hugo. She thinks he's cute and hot and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And he's the love interest of the show. And his point was, you're not supposed to like Hugo. I'm not supposed to like one of the central characters that Alita herself likes. So your main protagonist likes somebody who's unlikable, that I'm supposed to hate. So I'm supposed to be sitting there the whole time rooting for their love interest, her love interest to fail? Okay, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. And I'm not calling you stupid, person who made these comments. But that is foolish. I mean, unless that's the whole thing. But that was one of my other problems with the film, was that it seemed very much as though there's an overabundance of unlikable, bad characters in this film. Most of the hunters are ambivalent. They don't care. Most of the people in the city are just kind of like nothing's doing nothing. The people up in the Sky City are basically kind of, seem like they're just elites who just crap on the people down below them. I mean, the only two likable characters, if Hugo's not supposed to be likable, is the Doctor and Alita. You're telling me in this entire story, two people is all we're supposed to like? Okay, that doesn't make any sense either. Now, I want to talk about something that's a little bit more central to this, what his arguments seem to be about. His arguments seem to be based on, well, this is in the manga, and this is how the manga goes, and this is what the manga is supposed to be about, and you have to go read the story of the manga to understand what's happening in this movie, and blah, 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 blah. Okay? That's a bad argument. If you cannot enjoy a movie without reading the source material, then it's a bad movie, and it should never be made into a movie. It's that simple. If I have to go and read a series of books to understand a film, then it should never be made into a film. Now, I think Alita should have been made into a film. The problem is like if you're going to use the stuff from the manga, you have to explain it, and you have to make it believable that this is why they're doing it. Now, my comment that he seemed to struggle with was the fact that I didn't like the fact that the Doctor, who has this great ability to build cyborg bodies, he can build cyborg bodies, he can repair weapons, he can do all this stuff. He's, extremely smart. He repairs all the hunters and all that stuff, and is himself a hunter. And his hunter weapon is this rocket-propelled hammer thing. And I just thought, that's a stupid weapon for somebody who can do everything that he can do to use it. And he's like, well, that's what he uses in the manga. Okay. All right. I'll bite on that. The rocket hammer is actually not a bad weapon, but the way that he used it, like in the fight sequence, you see where he actually uses this rocket hammer. It's pathetic. Like he looks like a 5-year-old trying to wield this rocket hammer. You can't do that. It's like the actor needed to spend more time training. There needed to be more CGI or whatever added in to offset his inability to maybe pull off some of these stunts. I mean, I don't know how old the actor is that's playing him, but it looks like he's like, you sit there and think, how has this guy not been killed every time he's gotten into a fight with a cyborg? And that was my problem with it. The rocket hammer seems really pathetic the way they used it. Now, yeah, I could see how you could make that just an absolutely killer weapon that was just unbelievable, but it wasn't believable that he's a hunter and isn't dead having used this hammer as poorly as he was using it. So that was my problem. So, and then his kind of his last of his basic first critiques was that I thought that I made a better villain or bad guy than Vector. Well, it seems like he doesn't almost understand the story, because Vector isn't even the main antagonist. The main antagonist is like Nitro or Neutro or something. He's another character that gets mentioned a lot, but you don't see any. You see him like once in the whole film at the very end, and it's just like, so he's this evil force that's kind of controlling things from up on the Sky City. It's just like, well, okay. Which is fine. There's lots of villains that they kind of use them as a far off influence that's influencing the overall story from afar. But so Vector's the bad guy, but he's just basically the puppet of the main antagonist. And then the Doctor's wife, she seems like she's getting thrown in for no apparent reason whatsoever into different parts of the story. Her motivation doesn't seem believable, at least the way it's handled in this. Maybe in the manga it's better, but as I say, if you have to read the manga to get this movie, it's a bad movie. You have to explain in the movie. You have to explain for everybody who's not a manga fan why what's going on is going on. You have to have either more backstory or more explanations or that kind of thing. Otherwise, you're defeating the point of even having a movie on this. So And I think one of the other comments that was made was that they're trying to squeeze a watermelon-sized story into a grape. So they're trying to push this huge manga story into too small of a space, 2 hours. And instead of setting it up for a longer series of movies, which is what they should have done, explained more, spent more time on the backstory and building up motivations and explaining why these characters are what they're doing, where some of these things are coming from. It just, they should have done more of that. But and his reason for saying I think I'm a better bad guy, which apparently I would be, because they seem to be like, once they find Alita out, they're all like, we got to get her heart, get Alita's heart, kill her and get her heart, get her heart, get her heart, get her heart. Now I understand her heart is supposedly this extremely powerful power source. Okay. All right, I get that. But then they're also talking a lot in the movie about how she knows and uses this lost fighting style, which is just like almost unbeatable. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, why are you just after her heart when you could, take off her arms and her legs, put her back to that basic state that the doctor found her in, take her up to the Sky City and discover everything you want to know about this technology. Take it apart piece by piece and find out everything you want to know. Now that seems like believable motivations for a villain. He's not just going to go, I want the heart. All the rest of that cool stuff, just put it in the garbage. I don't care. That's stupid. And it comes off as not believable. As where most villains in that situation would be like, capture her at all costs and bring her to me. And we'll just take her apart. We'll immobilize her, take her apart piece by piece, and find out everything we ever wanted to know about this unknown technology. That is believable. Not this, we want one piece of this unbelievable technology, screw the rest. And that's what I was commenting on. He's like, well, it makes sense if you read the manga. Well, I've already explained how that doesn't work. So, I don't mean to crap on this guy, and I'm by no means, but I wanted to have a deeper discussion about what he brought up in my review than what I could do in just sitting there typing out 10,000 word comments that nobody's ever going to read, because you never do. Comments are best when they're short and sweet, and this guy downvoted my video because I didn't read the manga. Well, just for full disclosure here, I'm a huge fan of manga, anime, and all that kind of stuff. Like I say, over my shoulder here, you can see the poster for SAO, Sword Art Online, which is also a manga and an anime. I'm a huge Full Metal Alchemist fan. I'm a huge fan of Rosario and a Vampire. There's loads of these mangas that are made into animes that I absolutely love. Because they're different stories. They're different stories than we tend to get out of Hollywood and America, because the Japanese creators have a different view of a lot of these things. And it provides for some interesting storytelling. And I like that. But here my problem is that you can't have a story based on a manga and then not explain everything that is going to be strange or unusual to a different audience if you haven't read it. So anyway, I appreciate this man's comments or woman's comments on my review, and the fact that they came and watched it. He said he watched the whole thing, or they said they watched the whole thing, because that's why I said I think you need to watch the whole thing, because as I was reviewing his comments, I sat there thinking, I'm not sure you're I think you're watching somebody else's review and then commenting on mine, because some of his comments didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And if you think, you have to think about it from an outsider's perspective. You can't think about this as a fan of the manga. You have to think about this from the point of, you've got to pull everybody in that general audience into your story, or it doesn't work. Or you're going to have a lot of people walking out of the film going, I don't understand anything about that. I don't. It a cool visual. The same feeling I had was just like, you've left a bunch of stuff out here, and so it makes it hard for people to get a sequel or a film, genre brought up around this particular manga, because you didn't explain everything very well, and you left a lot of people out of the story, because unless you're an insider who reads the manga, you're not going to get this movie. And that's a mistake. You cannot come at it from that perspective. You've got to come at it from the perspective of the person who's just picking up the manga for the first time. You've got to pull them in. And you've got to do the same thing with the movie. And that didn't get done in Alita. Now, I mean, if I was to base my review off of his critiques and suggestions, I'd actually have to give it a lower score. Because if I base my thing off, well, you have to see the manga first, well, you're going to lose a point right there. Because you've just excluded a whole group of people who weren't exposed to the manga, who now probably should not be interested in this film because they didn't read the manga. And you've been excluded right off the bat. So you can't come at it from that perspective. So what could have been a great film and should have been a greater film than it was, suffered because it excluded a large portion of the audience from points and understanding of the story that you could only apparently get by reading the manga. So that's not going to be a good thing. Anyway, like I say, my point of this wasn't to attack this person or go after them, just to explain my reasonings and why his comments don't make a lot of sense. It's still a good movie. Go watch this movie. I'm not saying don't watch this movie or hate Alita Battle Angel. I'm just saying they could have done a better job with this. They could have made this something that blew everything else around it completely out of the water. The story material's there. The characters are there. The acting is there. The writing was there in a lot of respects, but it's just there was enough blank holes in it that it caused the movie to suffer and be pulled down. So that's the review I can give. If you're only making movies for specific fans and for specific groups of people, you're not going to get that overall general appeal that's going to help you pull in enough people that you'll get more of these movies. It's just if you close the genre too tight, you're going to hurt yourself at the box office. That's just the way it is. So anyway, I appreciate his comments. I hope you like this video, and I hope this clears up maybe some of the confusion for some of those you didn't like my review on Alita Battle Angel, because like I said, I'm not saying it's a bad film. It just had more potential there that was not used because the human motivations didn't seem to be completely fleshed out or explained why people were acting the way they are. And that's an important fact in a movie. And I'm not saying you need to be spoon-fed every single thing, but you do need to be able to understand people's motivations and where they're coming from and where they're going to. Otherwise, people just sit there and go, I'm lost. I don't understand. Why are they doing this again? Bob, okay. Sarah, do you okay, I'm lost. Everybody's lost. I don't know what's going on. So, and you don't want that when you're walking out of a film. You want everybody walking out of a film going, I love that. Greatest characters, greatest writing. The music scores were awesome. The city was explained. I mean, it just pulled me in. Everything makes sense. That's how you make a great movie. That's what they did with Star Wars and Star Trek and all of these. I mean, Game of Thrones, the other TV shows and stuff. That's how you do it. You've got to explain people's motivations, where they're coming from, what their backstory is, and pull everybody into their lives. Because if you don't do that, if you make your characters unlikable, you're going to get Captain Marvel. You're going to get an unlikable character that, you make some money off of it, but nobody's going to care about this character long term. So, and you don't want to do that to somebody like Alita Battle Angel, because she's got unlimited potential for great stories. She really does. And they could have just done so much more with it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you get out there and have yourselves a great day. Watch Alita Battle Angel. Tell me what you think. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I've missed some point in this. But don't come at me with, you have to read the manga or you just don't get it. Because that's not a good excuse. It's like saying to everybody, you got to go back and read all the Star Wars books or else you don't understand the films. Well, if you got to do that, what the hell's the point of the film? So anyway, people go to films to see the visions of what they love brought to life. So not to have everybody else in the theater sitting there talking about the books before they go in, and everybody else that didn't read the books are going, this is stupid. So anyway, have yourselves a great day. Like, share, subscribe, and working on some more new videos. I've updated my office, as you can see. I've got a lot more of my movie posters up and stuff. Doing a lot of things that I hope will bring more excitement and stuff to this channel. And let me know things that you want to hear about, movies that you'd like to have reviewed, so that we can open up dialogues on some of the stuff that's happening in pop culture or politics or whatever. Although I think I'm going to tone back my political videos just because it's getting depressing out there. It doesn't matter which party you belong to. You just kind of step back and go, please stop. So anyway, love you guys. Appreciate your views. Hang in there with me and help me build this channel. We'll make it something awesome, somewhere you can go for something no matter what you're looking for. Talk to you next time. Bye now.